Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Today's webinar will be about creating expressive characters in Clip Studio Paint, presented by Olga Andriyenko.
Hi.
Before we begin the webinar, there are some housekeeping items that we'd like to go through. The webinar will be approximately 1 hour long. All attendees will be muted. Question and answer session will be during the last 15 minutes of the webinar. Attendees can ask questions in the GoToWebinar question box right away. Due to time constraints, not all questions will be answered. The webinar will be recorded. The recording will be shared on social media and will be sent via email to all registrants and attendees. The panelists for this webinar are Mario Quiñones, myself, Joanna Brower, and Olga Andriyenko. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time or have never heard about Clip Studio Paint, Clip Studio Paint is your all-in-one solution for stunning, ready-to-publish illustrations, comics, manga, and animations. Learn more at clipstudio.net/n and graphicsly.com. And with that, we'd like to pass the reins of the webinar to Olga and her presentation, Creating Expressive Characters in Clip Studio Paint. Thank you so much.
Hello. I hope everybody can hear me, and I'm sharing my screen now, right? Yes, I hope so. Here's a little bit about me, and also you can imagine seeing me right now and imagine that I look like in this picture and this drawn portrait
Olga,
and not. Huh?
Olga, just a second. I don't think we're seeing your screen yet.
Why?
Did you get the screen share prompt? At least I can't see it.
Wait. I have to press this. Okay.
Yes.
So now I'm seeing my screen, right?
Yes.
No,
now
nothing can go wrong anymore.
Okay.
So this is me. This is me not after 2 years of sitting at home in a pandemic. So I don't look like this right now, but who cares? And here's a little bit about me. I was born in 1986, which makes me 34 years right now. I was born in Ukraine, but currently I live in Germany. And I started doing art because I just love to draw and I wanted to draw all the cool characters that I had in my head and all the stories that I had in my head. And that led me to drawing my own manga stories as a teenager. And at the age 16, I won a manga contest here in Germany, a big one. And after that, me and my friend were drawing manga for several years, and they even got published here in Germany, which was super cool for a teenage girl. And before that, I never considered doing art as a job. But after this experience, I thought, maybe I could become an artist, like as a profession, like a real artist. And that's why I ended up in a communications design university. It was communications design is not only like illustration and art, but also design, layout, some digital stuff. We even learned some things about video games and animation and so on. So it's a little bit broader than just an illustration degree. And that was because I was still not really sure what I want to do and how to make money as an artist. So I thought with more diverse knowledge, I could probably find some job. And after my university time, I ended up as an intern in a video game company. And it was basically by coincidence that I ended up there. But this is actually how I got my first job. So I ended up working in the games industry for over 8 years in the end. I was working in different companies on different games. I will show you some art in a second. And since last year, I'm officially a full-time freelancer. So I left my last game company I worked in, and I wanted to be completely independent and choose my own clients. And it was a little bit weird that it coincided with the beginning of a global pandemic, but I made it through. I still have a roof over my head, and I'm not going hungry, so it was not that bad, I guess. And I'm really happy that it worked out, and I'm continuing on my independent art journey. Now let's look at some art. Let's start with some humble beginnings. This is basically some of my really early art, like probably early school years, and you can see my first attempt of doing something digital, but also drawings on just school notebooks and so on. And I just always loved to draw different characters. I loved different fashion and also just different types of people and hairstyles and all types of characters. I was always coming up with new ones, and I always wanted to tell their stories, but I always had so many characters but that I never finished any story with them, and that's basically the story of my life. Probably relatable to some of you. And this led me to my manga career of several years. So Chance, the cover you see on the left is the comic with which I won this contest. It was like a short 14-page or something story, and it was really depressing. I don't know, I was an edgy and depressed teenager, so I cannot recommend reading it now, but I guess it was not drawn bad, so I won the contest. And afterwards, me and my friend who helped me writing the stories, we got a contract for actually publishing some stories, and together our stories were less depressing and it was more of a really funny type of stuff. So we published 4 books, and then our school time ended and we kind of grew apart, so we kind of stopped doing that because of that, because we did not vibe together anymore. And after that, I ended in video games. And as I said, my first job was an internship where I was doing 2D animation for adventure games. And this is basically a lot of this type of stuff that I did. A lot of characters walking from different angles, characters walking from the back, and more characters walking. So a lot of poses of different characters that do all kinds of stuff. I drew some characters scratching their butt or lifting up things or jumping into the shower or getting scared, a lot of this type of stuff. And the great thing about animation is that you have to draw so many poses that you practice a lot. So I think it helped me a lot with my abilities to draw characters. This is also from my game time, and this is a game called The Night of the Rabbit, where I was a lead character designer for the first time, and I designed all the characters in this game, and it was a lot of characters, like a lot of cool forest critters and dwarves and magicians, and it's just like some of the characters of this game. There were a lot more, and that's one of my favorite projects up to today that I worked on. Some different game stuff. I worked on several mobile games, and the style that you have to draw for mobile games is quite different than for PC games. And as you can see, I did a lot of really different stuff during my mobile video game career, because all the projects were really different and had different requirements to what the art is supposed to look like. So it was always something new, and I always could use that as a new learning experience, and that was quite fun. So I'm really grateful for all those years in video games where I have learned so much and tried so many different art styles. And this is more some more of my recent art. This was for a tutorial for the book Fundamentals of Character Design, which I participated in, and I really like how this illustration turned out. And it's a bit of an example what my current focus on my work is a lot of character interaction and a lot of character expressions, because I really enjoy drawing this stuff. It's I think one of my biggest strengths, and that's a lot of jobs that I'm getting right now are very character focused, and something like this. This is personal art. Some more personal art. in this occasion, I can also tell what I'm mostly working on, and that's Wacom Mobile Studio Pro, which is a mobile tablet PC. And since I went full freelance, I really learned to love this device because I can draw at my desk, but I can also draw on the couch and I can draw on the bed. So I like to move around the apartment and draw in different casual situations. So a tablet PC is like the best thing for me. And as you can see, I still really like to animate stuff. So I like to animate my animations sometimes. I draw often more personal comics where I tell about like my personal struggles with stuff like art block and depression and just like a little bit more serious themes, but I try to always try to tell it as a learning experience and what I have learned from also the negative experiences in my life and how I overcame them or how I grew from them. So I hope that I can give other people who are in maybe similar situations sometimes some sort of hope and a little bit of maybe some ideas how they can deal with more difficult situations. And it helps me a lot as well. So it helps me through my dark times to draw about them and process them in this way. And this is my current big project I'm working on between all the jobs that I'm doing. It's my comic, which will be published online because it has animations, and it's called Crimson Crush. And I hope you follow me on social media and you will see more of it in the next weeks, months, years probably, because it takes so much time to work on your personal project while also trying to make money. And if you're interested, I mentioned that I did some work for Fundamentals of Character Design and also for this new book called Character Design Collection Heroines. I don't know. So it's a really cool book, and I participated in it with a lot of really awesome artists, so I can totally recommend both of those books. And also, if you want to learn something from me and other cool people, get those books. So now that I have told you everything you need to know about me, I hope, if you have any questions, you can ask them afterwards in case I didn't tell something. And let's go to Clip Studio and I will explain to you a little bit about how I work and how I make my characters expressive and dynamic and alive. And here we have my face again, because I needed some references on different facial expression. Actually, having yourself as a reference is always a good idea, because you have yourself, you have a mirror, you have a phone camera, so you can always, if you need like a serious expression or a sad expression or something like that, it always helps to look at yourself. It has an advantage compared to, for example, looking at reference images, that when you try to do an expression yourself, you kind of feel in your face what muscles are tense and what parts of the face are engaged when you're doing this expression. So just try it, and you might end up looking stupid because you are making the weird expression you are drawing all the time while you are drawing. So I am this person looking stupid while I draw, and it's very entertaining to everybody who witnesses it. So don't worry, we all do that. It's nothing to be ashamed of. So I made some photos of my face, and just to use them as examples on how I try to stylize and break down facial expressions when I draw characters. Let's see. Try. This works. So first of all, we have a crazy smiling face. I don't know why I'm looking so manic here, but it's okay. I try to start off with the basic shape of the face, just to know where all the body, where all the parts will go. and it helps to do some guidelines where the center of the face is, like the vertical center where the nose is and the horizontal center line where the eyes are. So with that, you already can establish a little bit of a facial angle. So if you have a character looking up, you can point the eye line, curve it upward. And if you have a character looking down, you can point it downward, and you have already a good starting point to start drawing. So then I like to just roughly find where the eyes would be. So I'm still not really drawing the facial expression. I'm just trying to find the placement of everything. And I'm not drawing a portrait of myself right now, so I'm not going for a likeness of my face. I'm more like doing a stylized character, but so I'm not trying to aim that it looks like the photo. I'm just looking what my face does in this photo. So it also would help to, if you have the other angles, to also draw in some balls for the eyes and maybe like a rectangular shape for the nose, just to know where they are. And then you can start actually drawing the facial expression on top of it. If it's easier, you can lower the opacity of your current layer and just start a new one on top. And now we have the manic smiling face. So first of all, of course, we need the smile. And now you can study the expression a little bit more in the photo. So when you smile, you can see that your mouth, the smiling mouth, is pushing the cheeks a little bit up, like so. So they are pushed a little bit up, and because of that, they are pushed a little bit against the eyes. So you can sometimes get a little bit of a fold from the cheek overlapping the eyes. And then the eyes are wide open because it's a very happy smile, a little bit creepy happy. Maybe I just need to accept that I am a creepy person. And then you draw in the iris, and this is the point at which you decide where your character is looking. So now my character is looking at the basically at me, but you can also easily change that. You can just make her look up, for example. I think it's a little bit less creepy than looking straight at us. And also, as the happy expression is like everything is pointing kind of upwards in the face, like the mouth, the eyes, also the eyebrows are a little bit lifted upwards. And with that, you can create a great happy expression. And now you just need to kind of finish up the rest of the face. And you can experiment with that. If we are staying with the happy expressions, you can, of course, make it a little bit more extreme. If somebody is like really laughing hard, so hard that they close their eyes, you know, whether you are almost like dying from laughter. I will lower the opacity of the lower layer a little bit more so it doesn't disturb us, and you can see the new expressions better. And my general tip for facial expression is just try to avoid like really stiff, straight into the camera looking faces, because they tend to look less expressive than if you add like some sort of angle to them. Like if you have the same smile and it's just like looking straight into the camera, it's a little bit boring compared to something that is like tilted upwards or downwards. So always try to add something more dynamic to your poses. You can even add like some little tears if somebody is laughing so hard that they are crying. So let's go to the next situation here. I'll make it a little bit smaller so I have more space. So I have more of a like thinking, questioning type of face. And first I can start on my lower opacity layer to just also like get the rough shape. And as you can see, my face is slightly tilted in the reference photo. So maybe I will just tilt it a little bit more just to make the expressiveness a little bit stronger. And also just like doing a placement for eyes and nose without doing the expression. And now we can start analyzing what's going on in the photo. So as you can see, the mouth is kind of asymmetrical. It's not the same on both sides of the face. So it's a little bit tilted upwards on the left side. And everything asymmetrical kind of adds like some ambivalence to every facial expression. And here also the corner of the mouth that's just more tilted up also like creates this a fold over the eye. So it's kind of always on the same side of the face where the eye is kind of smushed together and the mouth is lifted up. And usually when you are thinking and you are searching for like some answer that is somewhere in your head, you usually tend to look somewhere to the side or upwards. So if this is like a thinking, questioning expression, I will make her look up into the air to search for answers, basically. Sometimes you have to erase and redraw the iris a little bit, because it often happens when you are trying to make a character look into a certain direction that the eyes kind of don't align to the same point. So sometimes you just have to erase and try again. It often happens. So now what is important in this facial expression is also the eyebrows. And as you can see, they are also asymmetrical, like the mouth. So this one is this one is more down and this one is raised up. This adds to the whole asymmetry of this facial expression. So we have one which is kind of pressing down on the eye and one which is lifted up, questioning, and some wrinkles between the eyebrows can add tension to the facial expression. And then you can add the thinker head, a hand. Classic detective face. Next up is a surprised face, which can also be more shocked or scared. And this kind of facial expression is what is very characteristic about it is that everything is a little bit stretched apart. So the whole face is kind of stretched upwards and downwards through the open mouth, and also the eyes are really wide open. So you can kind of draw the whole face a little bit longer. This is also a technique which is used in animation a lot, which is called stretch and squash. So when you have extreme facial expressions, or it's used for body poses as well, when you have facial expressions that are stretched apart, that you stretch them a little bit longer than they actually are to make them more extreme. And the same is true for the opposite facial expressions, the ones which are kind of squished together, you squish them even more a little bit. So now we have this facial expression which is already looking really surprised or scared, and now by adding the eyebrows, we can change a lot how this facial expression looks. So if we make eyebrows that are really raised high, this looks like a surprise. But if we add eyebrows that are more pulled together towards the eyes, it looks more shocked and angry. Or you can do a little bit of a mix of that. Which looks like somebody who is kind of really shocked by something you said, like you said, what? Or you can also make somebody really scared by making more of pushed together and raised in the middle eyebrows. I like to add silly hands just to make my poses a little bit more expressive. Bit of the scream pose. And let's do the last one, because this is kind of the opposite, because you can see the whole face is kind of squashed together. So you have the eyebrows pushing down on the face, down on the eyes, and the mouth is also kind of like this, kind of squashed towards the middle of the face. So let's try to draw this. The face is tilted downwards a bit. And now let's see. I like to start with the mouth because the mouth affects how the cheeks move, and that's why I like to decide what the lips do before I do the rest. But it's not necessary. Sometimes I start with the eyes as well. So we have some teeth fletching going on here. And I want to add a lot of tension to this mouth, so maybe even some wrinkles forming around it. Even some wrinkles on the nose from the tension of the whole expression. And now we also have the eyebrows pushing down. And here I will kind of do them before the eyes because I want them to be so pushed down that they even cover the eyes a little bit. Add an angry fist here. And a fun thing when you work digitally is that you can also use some transformation tools, which is something you can't do when you work on paper with a pencil. And I sometimes like to just try and see what happens if I make everything a little bit more extreme. You can select, like, because I have stuff going on multiple layers here, I will select multiple layers at the same time. And I will just like select this expression that I like. And what I like to use is the mesh transformation tool from Clip Studio. And you can just try to see if you can make your expressions even more extreme using that. So you can, for example, see what happens if you stretch this one a little bit more. Or if you have the feeling that you're using mesh transformation, but you need more points than that, you can actually go here to the tool properties and add more in between lines, and then you can even do more precise transformation, which helps to, if you want to change the perspective of the face a little bit. So you can make your drawing a little bit more extreme even. And after transforming, you have to adjust some things usually, like for example, the eyeballs here, now they are a little bit oval and not round anymore. So you can kind of go in there and correct them. So don't just rely on transforming, you have to do some redrawing afterwards, but it usually is a great way to push your facial expressions, or especially when you are drawing like full body poses, that also helps a lot to just select parts and transform them and see if you can make the pose or facial expression even more expressive. Let's try this on this pose. That's a little bit too much. So you can try it, and then you can also go back and forth and see if you like it more or less. And also, if you kind of like parts of it but want to change some other parts, you can still kind of go in and do some last corrections. But it helps because usually when we draw, we are often a little bit too tame in our, like in how extreme we draw things. So because we are kind of careful, and sometimes it helps to just go in with something as impactful as the transform tool, or like the mesh transform, and to just play around with what you have drawn, because you tend to see options that you didn't see before when you were drawing. So sometimes it helps a lot. And if you don't like it, just do undo and try again. So that's basically it, to just cover some basic facial expressions and how I approach them when I try to do facial expressions. And I will just do a little quick example how I approach it if I have like more of a, if I want to add a little bit more of a pose to it, but we will keep it really rough because we don't have that much time left. So let's imagine I want to draw a scene with two characters and I want them to interact with each other. And let's imagine they are, I don't know, sitting at a table, I guess, and talking to each other. So first I try to establish the scene. We have one character talking, and this character, I wanted this character to be like really excited and like leaning in and telling something like, you have to listen. So it's exciting. And especially in this phase, I transform a lot. Like I think this character should be even more leaning in a little bit more. And then we have character number 2, who is like a little bit like, I don't know, are you sure? It's kind of leaning away a little bit, like, really? Let's move them a little bit closer together, so it's more awkward. Maybe it's like an awkward date kind of situation. So, and as you can see, I start out super rough, and then I can add more layers on top and kind of try to refine it. So the really excited character has their eyes like wide open, the mouth too is telling something. I usually do a lot of attempts to figure out what the hands and arms should do. Like here, I will just go with like the first easy solution of just having them on the table. But usually when I try to draw a character interaction, like hands and arms are something that I redraw really a lot until I feel that it works. So it even helps sometimes to try to act out the scene you are drawing in front of the mirror and see how you would move in this that time. And just imagine you are a really bad actor and try to overact everything. It helps. And now we have the second character. Kind of like, I don't know. Why are you moving so close to me? Maybe this character looks a little bit too sad. Maybe he or she is a little bit more annoyed. And when you're trying to lean away from somebody, you kind of lift your shoulders up a little bit like a protective pose. Don't like this arm. Just delete it. Maybe holding on to the table a little bit nervously. I really don't know what's going on in this situation, so it might help to think a little bit more about what you're actually trying to draw. I just wanted to do some sort of interaction, so it would help me to know what exactly is happening here. But at least we already have some sort of interaction here. It's a starting point. If we knew more about the actual conversation and emotions going on here, we could make more specific choices. And again, all kinds of transform as your friend, especially in the early phases while you're still working in sketches. And it's better to do a lot of transformation while you're still in the dirty sketch phase and not later on when you already have spent a lot of time cleaning up your drawing and you realize, this is completely not what I wanted. It's much easier to make adjustments then. So try to decide early on in the sketch phase. Experiment more. Try to push all poses a little bit too much, and then you can do it a little bit less again and see what works for you. Huh. I'm actually good with the time. How did it happen? So I heard we have some questions, maybe?
Yes,
No?
yes, we do have some questions. Sorry, I
Okay.
needed to organize my notes here. We actually have a few, and while you're at it, could you show again how you are working with the mesh transform tool? I think people didn't quite get where to find that and how to use it.
So I put the mesh transform tool in this quick thing. Like when you select something, you have this little quick palette here on, and you can, with the last button, you can decide what little icons you have in there. So you can put all your favorite functions in there, and I think it's an edit and transform, and there is mesh transformation. And if you select it, it ends up in this bar down there. But if you don't have it in there, it's also edit, transform, and mesh transformation. And there you have it. It's usually like 3 by 3, and you have the tool property. If you don't have this window, you have to open it, I think, through the Windows, the tool property thing. Yeah, here it is. And it shows the properties of your selected tools. Like when you are working with a brush, it shows all your brush properties. But when you are in the mesh selection thing, it's showing all the mesh selections options. And here you can choose how many subdivisions it has. And I recommend not to do too much because it gets a little bit annoying to work with them, but kind of 4 or 5 is usually a good a good amount, and then you have those points, and you can drag them, and it transforms your drawing while you're dragging. Oh, the point. And you can also rotate it and move it around when you pick it at the edges. So basically, it has also the normal transformation options, but it has this added mesh functionality. And the normal transform is just a free transform tool.
Yeah.
Where you can, if you hold down Control and select one of the corners, you can also do some more wild transformations.
Oh, that got dramatic.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we got that. That's really good. You mentioned it at the beginning what your tablet is. Can you just say, like, describe your setup again? Has it been different? Has it changed over the time, or
So
what did you start out with?
Like my first drawing tablet was like a Wacom Graphire, which is like a really old model, and it was like the size of a postcard. It was really tiny, but it changed my life completely. Like I got it when I was, I think, 13 or something, and I could finally work digitally. Before that, I had to draw everything with a mouse if I wanted to work on a computer. So I thought it's impossible to draw on a computer. I only colored my scanned drawings with the mouse. But after I got my first drawing tablet, my mind was blown and I could do everything suddenly. And since then, I have been like a very loving Wacom fan. So all my devices since then have been Wacom devices. And with my first really big salary, I bought myself a big Wacom Cintiq, which is the screen tablet. It was like the oldest model. It's really antique by now. And the funny thing is, it's over 10 years now, and it still works. I'm just not using it that much anymore because I have the Mobile Studio now, and the Mobile Studio is not only a tablet but also a computer at the same time. So it's a tablet PC, and I just work only on it by now because I like to sit on the couch and work. I kind of don't like to sit at the desk where my big computer is. So that's why I'm a big fan of it, and I have not used my big Cintiq for a long time.
Okay. So you went freelance last year. How do you keep yourself motivated to keep working? I mean, obviously there is your salary depending on that. But if you really like, how is your work as a freelance artist?
It depends, and it kind of also changes a lot. Like especially last year has been rough because the pandemic hit in full force and everybody was really depressed. And also there was a time where I didn't get like any jobs because everybody was closing down and nobody was in the office anymore, but now it kind of normalized. So it's been like on and off my motivation also. And it's, I must say, I'm like not the perfect freelance influencer, to be honest, because I feel like some other people are more disciplined and they work the same amount of hours every day and they have a really strict routine how they work and it's really healthy how they do it. But I'm not that kind of person. I'm more of a chaotic artist type, and I kind of sometimes my work ethic is driven by panic because the deadline is approaching. That's the honest truth. But sometimes I'm also really motivated. So I try to keep my jobs kind of different. So I'm trying not to do a lot of the same for too long. So if I, for example, finished a job where I had to draw a lot of character portraits, then I kind of get tired of drawing character portraits, and I'm trying, like with the next job that I do, I just try to go for something different. And usually as a freelancer, that's actually like the good thing that happens, that you get a lot of really diverse jobs. They usually are not like the next one is usually not like the previous one. So that already is kind of built into the freelance profession. And that's also what I'm trying to look out for, that I don't get bored, because I get bored easily. And if I get bored, it's really hard for me to stay motivated.
How do you, like, a lot of artists who work professionally, they don't have a lot of time or motivation to have anything, like do anything for their personal work. Do you still do like a lot of personal? I mean, you have your own project, obviously. How do you balance that? What you want to do and what you have to do?
It's a little bit of an on and off. There are times when I have like really time-consuming jobs, I sometimes don't draw anything personal for weeks even, because I kind of, when I'm super exhausted after working on a job, I don't want to work on my personal projects exhausted. I kind of want to enjoy them. So usually when I'm really super busy and the jobs are very demanding, I'm okay with not drawing personal stuff for a while, but I start to miss it. And that's how also, like when you start missing something and you really want to do it, you find like some secret stash of motivation often, even if you are tired. So that helps. Sometimes like not doing anything personal for a while helps to find some extra motivation to work on it. And also when you're a little bit more lucky with your jobs and with more experience as a freelancer and with better like contacts to people who give you jobs, you can of course try to select your jobs in a way that you have a little bit of a buffer in terms of time and money after a job, so you don't have to start working on the next job immediately. Like you have maybe some days or weeks in between where you can just focus on your personal art, and that's what I try to do, so that I don't go from one job to the next without any days in between. Like, of course, if money is tight, I have to, but I'm trying to leave some days in between, or sometimes when I'm really lucky and one job got paid really well, I can even like take a month to only work on my personal art, and that's actually great. Then I just have to focus on not procrastinating, which is the next problem. But yeah.
You also mentioned you worked in the video game industry before. And we got the questions like, how did you get into that? Do you have like a formal education in terms of art, or is it mostly self-taught?
I'm mostly self-taught. Like my formal education, as I said, was communications design. So it was not really like, it had some video game basics in there, but it was not really tailored to video games, and also not really tailored to animation. So what actually got me my first game jobs was that I was really good at that time, because I have been drawing for so long. It was not my education that got me my first video game job. And my first job was an internship, and it was paid really badly, but I really wanted to do it because I wanted to I liked what the company was doing, and I was like, oh my god, I can work on real video games that people play. That's crazy. So and also at that time I was like, my parents were helping me to pay my rent at this time, so I was not I could like take this luxury of doing a really badly paid internship at this time because my parents supported me. But after that internship, I had to find more paying jobs because my parents didn't want to support me forever. So, but it was a great way into this industry, and I learned a lot. And they also saw what I am capable of. And first, actually, after this internship, they offered me a position, but it was also like really badly paid, and I couldn't afford living where I'm living, like in the city, with that payment. So I said no, and I did like some other jobs in the meantime. Like I was doing web design and stuff like that. It had nothing to do with art for like a year. And then they reached out to me again, and because I turned down the job once, they saw that I'm not that easy to get probably, and they offered me a much better paid position. So sometimes it's worth to say no once.
Yeah, definitely. That's lucky. That's lucky too. I mean, you got the chance to go back or like at least get a better offer. That's a really good thing.
Yeah, and I didn't know that it would happen. So when I said
Yeah.
no, it was no indefinitely, and
Mm.
they reached out to me like it was at least a year later. So you never know what happens, but you should, like, if somebody is offering you a job and you can't like live while working this job, you probably should say no. And who knows, like maybe with the next project they have a little bit of a bigger budget and they can afford to pay you an actual living wage.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, let me check. There is one big request that we got. Could you do an expression, like really quick, like an expression from the side profile, like a shouting face or something with
Oh
like,
yeah, these are hard. I will try. And side
yeah.
profiles are a hard thing to draw. So I also struggle sometimes. So the what helps me is when I draw faces from the side, it's kind of like drawing the skull from the side first. So it helps to start with like a straight line and just like the back of the head. And then you have like the eyes somewhere here and the nose somewhere here. So you have like the basic shape of the head, and then on top of that you can start drawing the actual face. And let's see, and for example, like if you have the mouth wide open for shouting or like being surprised, the jaw moves down a little bit.
But I guess it's a bit more difficult because you don't see the whole face, right?
Yes, but you can use like this the same principles. So like if you're surprised, the eyes are really wide open and kind of, and the eyebrows too. And let's just make a copy of that, and so I don't have to redraw the whole thing, and just try a different expression on top. Let's see, we want, for example, to make an angry shout, then the mouth should be a little bit more tense, and you maybe see some teeth. Now it's still not angry because we need some angrier eyebrows.
Ooh, yeah. Someone's angry.
And you can also like push the eyelids a little bit over the eyes, and that works. So it's the same principles, but you have to think more in perspective. So then the mirror doesn't help that much, but you can still take photos with your mobile phone. That kind of helps sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I hope that answered the question too.
Let's see, maybe
And
we can do another side profile, and you
oh, yeah.
can ask the next question in the meantime.
Do you avoid anything in terms of work? What kind of work would you not accept?
I mean, I'm trying to also like look who I'm working for sometimes. Like,
Mm,
for example, things that I think are not really ethical or that I just don't like for example, gambling machines or something. They need a lot of art and they probably pay well, but I don't want to work on
mm,
this kind of stuff. So I kind of turn those things down. And also, I don't know, sometimes you get requests for something that is just like not really what you are good at doing. And I feel like sometimes people are just reaching out to artists. They Googled artists and their job, and you kind of feel like it's absolutely not a match for me. So I try to avoid those as well. So I'm trying to
mm,
look what I would enjoy and what I'm good at. And also like sometimes I if I feel like it's something I would like to learn, like something that I feel like maybe I'm like not that good at it, but I could get better at it. Well, if I tried it, those kind of jobs I try to take, like if they're interesting to me.
yeah,
But
yeah.
probably if somebody like wrote me and asked me like we need a design for a huge mecha robot thing, I would probably say no because I have absolutely no idea how to draw those, and there are people who do it much better, and I kind of am also not ready to learn it on a job because it's just too far away from what I'm doing right now. Like I would have to practice first.
Yeah. All right. We're at the end of the session. Do you have anything more that you want to like announce or say? Any advice? Any last thing you want to give to the audience in terms of advice?
So, of course, follow me on social media and watch out for my comic, which will happen. This comic, and yeah, and just in terms of advice, I am really have fun with your art. It's I think the most important thing is that you keep loving it, and sometimes, especially becoming professional as an artist, can take a little bit can take this love a little bit away, because some jobs are just shitty, or some employers are not good, and you can sometimes feel like it affects your art, or that you just don't like to do it anymore because the workplace you have been at is just a crappy place, but because it's so connected to your art, and art is something truly personal, we take everything that is connected to our art really personal. So try to don't let it get to you, and to just whatever it takes to love your art. And if you realize that your work makes you not love your art anymore, then probably it's time to change your job, because your art is more important than this job, I feel. Because I don't know, it will be with you all your life, and it will grow with you. So I think the most important part is to always remember that you love it, and try to find it again if you start losing the love, especially like also in those times where you have like art block or everything. It's just, yeah, I think this is like what is most most important to me. And also reach out to other artists. Like it has been the best thing in my life that over the many years that I have worked as an artist, I met other artists through the jobs, and also through social media, and through some art events. And just having conversations with other artists is really great. It helps you like get some things in perspective. It helps you talk about your problems, because people who are not artists, they usually don't really understand your struggles that well. And it's really important to talk to people who understand you. And first of all, you get more understanding for when you're struggling, but you also get great tips for your work, and you can get inspired from each other. So try to reach out to other artists, and don't live in a cave forever. So these are my most important advices. And have fun.
Yeah.
And thank you so much
great.
for being here. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you too for the webinar and presenting your style of work. I'm gonna give it back to Mario now.
Yep, thank you so much, Joanna, for leading the questions, and we really appreciate Olga, your presentation. It was really fun, and we know everybody learned a lot today. So we also want to say thank you to everyone who attended today and who are still with us. Let me just share one last bit of information. Learn more about Clip Studio Paint and clipstudio.net/n and graphicsly.com. And as a reminder, this webinar has been recorded and will be uploaded to Clip Studio Paint channel on YouTube and also on Graphicsly YouTube channel. And for more information about Olga and her projects, follow her on her social media on Instagram as AsuRL, Twitter, and AsuRocks.de on her website. So with that, again, thank you so much, Joan, and thank you so much, Olga, for another great webinar with us.
Thank you.
And we hope to see you on our next event. So stay tuned in all social media. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.